Welcome back to the SME Souk podcast. Today, I'm interviewing the interviewer, Spencer Lodge. Spencer has made over 370 episodes of his hugely successful podcast, Made in Dubai, and has spent over 3 decades building high-performance teams. Let's get into what he's learned about sales, storytelling, and why Dubai still fires him up. Join me and Spencer on the SME Souk podcast. So Spencer, welcome to Rakbank.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here. Nice to see the view
Great
out
view.
in Silicon Oasis and have this wonderful setup. So thanks for having me.
Welcome. So you're the king of podcasts in Dubai. A lot of the conversations you have with people are about them. We're here to talk about you. Why don't you take us back to the beginning, before all the podcasts, before the keynote speaks?
The beginning where? The beginning of Dubai or the beginning of my my career?
Your career, let's go.
Crikey. Kid that didn't do very well at school, stared out the window most of the time, didn't get many qualifications. I was just one of these. My parents got divorced when I was 7 and my dad went bankrupt. So I was observing the behavior of my mum, who was trying to become somebody on the back of her husband going bankrupt. And so she had 3 jobs and she worked really hard. And I was watching that without really being conscious about it. But she was teaching me how hard work pays. And so when I left school and I got my first proper job, I was working in the city of London and I was selling office equipment. And while a lot of people might think that's, an insignificant role to play, there were some important lessons that I had. And those lessons shaped every part of my career going forward. And so my boss said to me on day one, I want you to make 100 cold calls. Mm-hmm. And, this is back before there were computers and all this kind of stuff. This is like in the late 80s.
Did you have a yellow pages?
We had yellow pages, we had phone books, yeah. So the way we would get data is that we'd go and knock on doors of companies, and my patch was in the city of London. You have 4 postcodes, EC 1, 2, 3 and 4.
Sure.
I had EC3, that was it. No EC2, no EC. I could only work in EC3. And you'd go to the companies and you'd get a compliment slip and you'd write down the name of the office manager and the office equipment. And he said to me the first day, you're going to make these calls, you're going to call 100 people, and I want you to get 100 people to say no.
Oh, wow, okay.
And I was like, okay. And bear in mind, I'm young, I don't know anything. And so I made these 100 calls and I had my telephone script and I had, the stuff I should read if I get objections and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I got 100 people to say no, and I didn't know what I was doing really. And I went to the boss at the end of the day and he gave me a high five. He said, brilliant job, chuffed to bits with that, really good.
Resilience training.
Yeah, well, I went home and so I told my mum and she's like, and so then the next day he said, get me another 100 no's. And the next day, get me another 100 no's. Now, by then, there were a few people on the phone that were going, oh, yeah, I might be quite interested in that. And I'm like, oh, maybe you wouldn't be interested now. I was almost talking people out of it. Well, after a few days of doing that, he said to me, can you do me a favor and just get me 99 no's today? And just get me 1 yes. And so clearly what he was trying to teach me to understand is that there's no ways you're going to get a yes unless you get no's first, and rejection's part of the game. Mm-hmm. So learn how to deal with it. And I still think to this day, most people don't know how to deal with rejection, and it pushes them back from pushing forward, particularly when you see the number of small businesses that fail. I think a lot of it is because people can't handle rejection. And so I was taught this. And so anytime I ever went to try and achieve anything, I knew I was going to get lots of no's. And so you just have to go and collect the no's and you'll find a yes eventually. And so that taught me a lot. And when it came to other parts of my life in business and in different countries, rejection was very standard for me. And so it kind of bounces off me. And I can't tell you how important that is because of how many people struggle with that. So that was the early part of my career. And then I was fortunate enough to move overseas when I was 23. And I've been able to live in many different countries. And every time I've been to a new country, people would say to me, it's different here. Yeah. You have to understand, Spencer, it's different here. And every time, 10 countries later, I know it's not. The food might be different. The culture might be different. How you do business might be different. But what I've learned is that everybody wants exactly the same thing.
What's that?
They want their kids to be well educated. They want to have a family home. They want to enjoy nice holidays. They want to have a good career, and they want to have money in the bank, and they want it to be safe. Everybody wants the same thing. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter what your religion is, what your background is. We all are exactly the same. And what I was taught through those experiences is that stop looking for the differences and start realizing that we're more alike than we're not.
Amazing.
And I think that was really important for me as a lesson.
Really good. I mean, that resonates a lot with us. We're expats. We've come to a location which is Dubai, the UAE. There's a huge amount of opportunity here. How can some of these lessons help businesses come in that are fresh to the UAE? What things do they need to think about? How do they build their networks? Where should they focus on if they're fresh on the ground in Dubai?
Well, I think if you go back 21 years when I first came here, we had Ramadan, of which it was much stricter than it is today.
It was, yeah.
We had Friday and Saturday were the weekend, and Sunday was the first day of the week. And a whole bunch of other stuff that you would say that is probably in need of some form of evolution. And so this country has made the changes to make it easier for us to do business here. They've changed the weekend, that came as a shift. Ramadan now is something that the Westerners can work with much easier. There's respect for all religions, which means in business it's much easier too. And so I think that living here, when you come for the first time to set a business up, you can do it a lot easier than you could 21 years ago. Now, are there different documents? Are there different terminology? Is there different processes? Yeah, absolutely. But remember something, you don't pay income tax, okay?
True.
And you pay a very low rate of corporation tax. And so if you take that into consideration, maybe if there's a couple of things that might be different, just accept them because you're onto a winner no matter what, as long as you succeed.
Amazing. So you traveled to Holland and then you decided to come to Dubai. What made you select this part of the world?
It selected me. The business that I was part of, we bought a company here, and that company was failing. And my plan wasn't to move to Dubai. I was supposed to be moving to Geneva.
Oh, wow.
So at the last minute, it was like, Spence, would you go to Dubai? And I came here. It was January 2005. And my office was in the Emirat Atrium building, which is down near Safa Park, near the Enoch building. And across the road was the Donata building and nothing else. Well, what you see there now is the Burj Khalifa, downtown. What you see there is Business Bay. Yeah. None of that existed when I came. So I arrived in this city when it was much different. But there was a feeling about this place. I came here and I'm like, there's an energy. Yeah. People are trying to become somebody. And I love that sense, that I love a country that says, if you don't have a job, you better leave. I love that. It's like, or if you don't have a job, go and get one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Try.
But try. Yeah. Put your effort into getting a job. Make the effort. And there's all the victims out there that might watch content like this and go, yeah, well, it's not as easy as you say. Rubbish. I'll teach you how easy it is. I've got two daughters. One of my daughters, when she left university, said to me, "How do you get a job, Dad?" I'm like, "You've been at university for 4 years. They didn't teach you that."
Exactly.
And she's like,
education needs to evolve.
No. And so this is what I told her to do. I said, you're going to apply for 30 jobs a day for the next 4 weeks.
The best way I've heard it phrased is that searching for a job should become your job.
That's right. Well, this is exactly what she did. 30 jobs a day for 4 weeks. That was 150 jobs a week. So that was 600 jobs she applied for in 4 weeks. At the end of each day, she had to send me a WhatsApp with each job she applied for. At the end of that 4 weeks, she had 10 job offers and she chose the one she wanted.
Done.
Okay, 600 job applications. My other daughter was told to do the same thing. After a week, she'd applied for 4 jobs. And she said, well, it's a bit difficult, isn't it? They both have exactly the same opportunity. One decided not to and one decided to. So for anyone out there that's listening or watching this right now that is in victim mindset and mode where they're going, oh, it's tougher than you think. No, you make it tough. There's very simple ways of doing things. You just not putting the work in. So stop blaming everything for the reason you're not getting where you want to get. When I came to Dubai, this was a new city. Okay, there was a 1.6 million population. There's now 4 million. Here, it was like a village by comparison. You didn't have many tourists. I remember I lived in Sakim, and I used to go to the supermarket. I used to drive down to Kite Beach and cycle down to Kite Beach. There was just sand. There was no Kite Beach. There was just end of the road, sand, and then sea, and that's what was there. So it's completely developed. Business here, I promise you, is 10 times easier than anywhere else I've ever lived. It's 10 times easier. Why? Because everyone's growing. People will give you a chance. Go and try and do what I do in London. The door's shut before you even try and get through it. Here, people will at least have a conversation with you. If you want to find clients, you can find them. If you don't want to find clients or you want to be a victim, you can be a victim. But if you want to find clients, put the work in, you'll find them. And I realized that very quickly here. And so those first couple of years were exciting. They were challenging. And this was my life. I had an office in Cyprus, an office in Muscat, office in Kuwait. So this was my life. Sunday was the first day of the working week in Dubai. Sunday through till Thursday night. I would leave Dubai on Thursday night. I would fly to Cyprus. Cyprus was open on Fridays. I would do meetings in Cyprus on Fridays. I would fly Friday night from Cyprus to Muscat. Saturdays, okay, Muscat was open because it was the first day of the week there. I'd do a day's worth of work there. I'd fly on Saturday evening from Muscat to Dubai to get ready for the beginning of the week. And that was my life for years. And I loved it. I loved it. And people say, well, what about work-life balance? When you're doing what you love, there is no balance. Yeah. Okay? When you're doing what you don't love, and this is another piece of advice to anyone that's in business, if you hate what you're doing, you don't live for very long. Stop and go and find something you love, because it doesn't matter how much money you earn. If you're not happy in your heart, you'll just be miserable, not just to you, but to everyone around you. And if you're going to be a business owner, you can't do that. You know, if you're motivated, and I know people that are motivated by money, great. We shouldn't criticize somebody that's motivated by something you don't agree with. Let them be. Okay, if that's what motivates them, fine. If people are motivated by nice things, fine. Okay, if you're motivated by making a difference and creating change, great, fine too. You know, some things that you find really interesting, I find really boring, and vice versa. No problem. We're just different. But I urge people, if you're going to get into business, and don't become an entrepreneur, okay, because you think it's a fast route to making a load of money. I can't tell you how hard entrepreneurship is.
Well, yeah, 90% of startups fail.
And it's lonely. Oh my God, it's so lonely. And you all of these people you're responsible for in your business, you're responsible for their families, you're responsible for, you have to make sure that the payroll is done. You have to make sure that money's coming through the door. And at any given moment, you could be off the edge of a precipice. It's really hard. Don't become a business owner unless you're prepared for that. Because as much as the corporate world might seem like a prison, I tell you what, it's the biggest safety net you'll ever find. Because as long as you show up and you try your best every day and you get on with the people you work with, you'll probably have a job for a long period of time. Go out into that that startup space, okay? I've failed more times. I've made more bad investments than I can throw a cat at. I've made more bad decisions about people than I can tell you. I've messed up so many times. The difference is when I was 18 years old, I was taught to deal with rejection. And so everything I get is just telling me I'm going to find the yes further down the road. So I've got to keep going through the rejection. And I'm conditioned for that. And that's how I can cope with it. Most people aren't. So please, please, please don't get involved in it unless you know what you're getting into.
So in your podcast, you this love for Dubai really sort of comes across, both in how you speak to people and the sort of examples that you give. What do you really love about Dubai when it comes to networking with people and how they can bring people into their network so that they can prosper in business?
Okay, Dubai is probably for me the best country or city in the world to network. It's like there isn't anywhere comparable, and I'll tell you why. I lived in Amsterdam in Holland before I lived here. I was there for 4 years. And before then, I'd lived in other countries where there was an expat population, but it was small compared to the indigenous population. Here, we are the larger number. And everyone knows what it's like to start here and not know anyone. So wherever I go, you and I, okay, you've been 11 years, I've been here 21 years. We meet somebody new and they arrive. We know what they're going through. We know what they're feeling. Yeah. And so what we do is we compensate for that by trying to help more than maybe we would if we were back in our home country. And so that's what I really love about networking here. Everyone wants to try and help. And that's way more sincere than you would believe, because we understand the challenges you face. And because we've been able to circumnavigate the challenges, or we've been able to work through them, and now we know the solution to them, we want to share that with other people so that they can get on. So networking here is it's just a dream, compared to many other places. Now, again, you can run around and go to the opening of an envelope. You don't have to. You can actually focus your networking with the people that you want to spend time with based upon either the clients you're looking for or the industry that you're working with. It's not difficult to do that at all.
And I think what's unique about the UAE is this sense of community. I don't really get a sense of that back at home. There's a lot of people, and perhaps it's because we're all in the same boat, right? We've all come here. We're all trying to prosper. We're in an environment that's helping us to do that. And that's what brings people together in a really unique way.
Well, I think it's slightly different. Your mum and dad aren't here. Your school friends aren't here. The 5-a-side or the 11-a-side football team you played for when you were growing up aren't here. And for us, your local pub isn't here from when you grew up. So all of the kids you went to school with aren't here. Now, if we were living, you were in Preston and I was living back in the UK, and we have that whole infrastructure around us, we're less likely to reach outside of it. But because we don't have any of that here, we have to create one. And that's why this place works.
Okay, let's jump into sales.
Okay.
So Dubai is the home of the unsolicited phone call. Are you partly to play for that?
I think that cold calling is part of any business that's trying to get on. I think people talk about cold calling very negatively. I come from a world where cold calling was one of the only options. If you go back to the kind of like the late 80s, early 90s, you had 3 choices to build a business, okay, or find clients. One was to cold call, another one was to work on referrals, and another one was to network. The 4th one would be to advertise in the yellow pages and hope that someone opened up the page or a big budget on the radio or the television. But startups would never have the money for radio or television advertising, so that's pretty much what they had to do. Back then, I hated cold calling, and I worked out that referrals were the best way for me to work, so I was obsessive in getting referrals. But if you come here and you know nobody, you don't have a book of clients you can get referrals from. You've got to make phone calls and introduce yourself to people. Now, when you actually talk about unsolicited phone calls, they happen in every city, in every country in the world.
They happen a lot more here.
Okay. Do they? Do you know that? Or do you just feel that?
I feel that.
Okay, but you don't know that.
But it comes from a particular sector, which is in the property.
Your
business,
sector.
Right? Not banking, no.
Yes. Credit cards. Everyone complains about the following. Okay, let's be really honest about
Sure.
it. Okay, people complain about real estate. They complain about credit card companies. Or banks offering credit cards. They complain about the membership cards that are offered. I don't know what they're called, but they'll come with the different hotel chains as well.
Sure.
They get that kind of
Rewards,
stuff.
yeah.
And people complain about those cold calls. At the end of the day, you think about it. If you and I set a business up, and we don't have digital skills and digital knowledge, and we have to find a way to find clients, we can go and network, or we can put a list together of people that we can call. The problem isn't cold calls. The problem is the quality of the cold call.
Okay, let's dive into that. What is wrong with the calls that are currently happening, particularly on those 2 sectors?
Okay, so, hello, sir, would you like a credit card? No. There you go. That's not a great cold call, is it? and so that's what happens, because there's not a huge amount of training that goes in for salespeople to learn how to do it properly.
So it's a script.
Real estate brokers, estate brokers, same thing. They right. You got to make 100 cold calls. They're given the database of, I don't know, a community with the owners' names and numbers on, and do you want to sell your house? Do you want to sell your house? Well, what do you think's going to happen?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be pestered by an unqualified phone call. But if somebody phoned you up and said, hi, my name is John. Before we start, I'm going to tell you this is a cold call. So if you want to throw your phone out your window, do it right now.
Now, telling jokes, I think that would work on me.
But that's because we're people. Yeah. We're human beings. Sure. And so if we're human beings, then let's talk to people like they're human beings.
But the one thing that annoys me is when they try to make it personable and I don't know you already. Is that a particular technique that you're aware of?
Yeah, of course.
We'll say, Tom, hey, how's it going? We spoke like 6 months ago, but we had this back and forth. I know for a fact I've never received a phone call from that individual. That kind of winds me up.
But that's lying.
Well, there you go.
But that's bad training, isn't it?
Okay.
Okay, exactly the same. I'm really sorry, but every single telephone interaction, whether it's a cold call or you calling into a call center, if that person isn't trained well enough how to handle that person over the telephone, then they shouldn't be doing it. Okay, but if you remove the corporates and just start thinking about small businesses, you and I set a company up and we've got to get some clients. Maybe we've got to make some calls. Well, maybe I'm the sales guy, so I'll do sales and you'll do fulfillment or operations or some other part of the business. But we've got to find some clients.
So what would be in your, say we were to set up a business, what would be in your script for people calling our customers or potential customers?
Again, the script would be designed around the products and service that we're offering, okay, based around, what size is the ticket? Are we selling something that's $50? Are we selling something that's $5,000 or $500,000? It can be deployed differently. So to create a script based upon a load of unknowns is probably not the wisest thing to do.
But you said that the better calls are more personal, more human. So how would you train in individuals, and how can we help small businesses create more human calls?
Well, the first thing that the owner of that business has to realize is that sales is a skill. Okay, I met this girl in a bar in London once. Okay, she was my dream girlfriend. Okay, I've walked into a bar. It's Friday night. I'm like 19 years old, and I look across the bar, and she's there. She's the most beautiful woman I've ever met in my life, and I'm like, she's the one. I had no courage at all to ask her what her name was. Yeah, absolutely. I had nothing. But eventually, after a couple of hours, I had the courage, and I went up and I said, "Hi, how are you? What's your name?" And she said, "I'm Sarah, and I'm nice to meet you." And she told me she was a secretary in a firm of architects. And I was like, "Okay, that's interesting. Where are you? Hanover Square." I'm like, "Okay, I know the area." And she said, "What do you do for a living?" I said, "Oh, I'm a salesman." And she just looked at me and she went, "Oh," and rolled her eyes. She's like, "A salesman? What do you sell?" I said, "Office equipment." And she said, "Oh." I said, "Well, what were you expecting?" She goes, "I don't know, an investment banker, a lawyer, somebody, a real somebody." And I stopped her and I said, "Let me just ask you a question. Does your company have clients?" She's like, "Yeah." I said, "And if those clients stopped paying, what would happen to your company?" She said, "Well, it would close." And I said, "And you'd lose your job." There are people in your company that go and find the clients, that bring the revenue through the door, which enable your salary to be paid. Show them a bit of respect, whether they're salespeople or business development executives, whatever that title is. And also remember a few other things. These people deal with emotional roller coasters on a daily basis. They deal with rejection every single day. You don't. They don't get a guaranteed salary every month. A lot of them work on commission. They still have a roof to put over their family's head, car payments to make, and food to put on the table. They're dealing with all of that without the guarantee of income. Those people are the people that bring revenue into a company. Yep. And if you don't respect them, you're saying you don't respect the backbone of the business. And it really kind of like, in that conversation, I got on a bit of a high horse about it. But I dated her for 2 years. But I started to defend salespeople because I hate that salespeople are given a bad rap. There is good and bad in every industry. I've met a bunch of lousy lawyers, a bunch of terrible accountants. I've met a load of bad bankers. Okay, so there's bad in every industry as well as there's good. Great salespeople, well-trained people, are people that have taken that industry and said, "I'm going to be professional. I'm going to learn what's involved so that I can be an exceptional salesperson." And most small businesses and medium-sized businesses don't take the training of salespeople seriously. They think it's like, "Oh, well, he's a good communicator. He's got the gift of the gab." No. What are the systems and processes that these guys are learning, and how are you teaching them? And often you find that they're not. They'll spend time teaching other people other stuff, but not teaching the salespeople. They'll just put greater demands on more effort from a salesperson, and that's not how you learn.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we've acutely learned at Rakbank. So we have one of the largest RM units for any business banking segment in the UAE. Massive amounts of RMs, and we find that it increases, our relationships with our customers. It has ears on the ground, so we understand what's happening. And all of that feedback comes into the back office for people like me to build digital journeys for them, so we can help curate and make those journeys more efficient and more effective. Very much a digital bank with a human touch when it comes to that aspect. And it's something that we're very, very proud of. You don't see enough of it in the UAE, and certainly in places like America and Europe, where they're getting rid of branches, they're reducing the headcount, and they're making everything AI. Let's dip a bit into that. What's your thoughts on how AI will impact the sales sector?
Well, let's just take those 2 points, because you said that the RMs are doing a better job. One of the biggest mistakes banks make is not to match RMs with their clients.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So if someone whose mother tongue is Arabic, and their second language is English, and they're really good at Arabic and they're not so good at English, why are they dealing with people that don't speak Arabic? If someone is Indian, people like to buy from their own way more than they like to buy from others. Okay, we're British. We like to buy from British people more than we like to buy from Germans. Okay, the evidence is out there to prove that. Okay, because we can find common ground very quickly. You and I live in a foreign country. You're from Preston. I'm from down south. Okay, we can find ways. We both watch Coronation Street. Do you know what I mean? It's like we both know Michael McIntyre, the comedian. Okay, if you're talking to a guy from Egypt, he has never heard of Michael McIntyre. And so I noticed that a lot of companies don't try and match the people in the business to their clients. You know, it's like, let's say we had a business and it was hospitality, whatever that was. We would want someone that understands hospitality to be our relationship manager. Yeah. If they don't understand hospitality, they understand manufacturing, then maybe they won't get our business. And a lot of the time, the frustrations come from the clients because you don't get the situation we're in. You don't understand where we are. And if you did understand it, you'd be much more flexible, I'm sure, because you can't apply our rules to a firm of lawyers or a factory that's producing stuff out in Ajman. It's like I think that's one of the mistakes companies make. Now, then when it comes to AI, I find it laughable that people push back against AI. I find it laughable that people are fearful of AI because I remember the internet.
Okay.
I'm 55 years old. I watched the internet come and the exact same conversations were being had then. Whoa, that'll never take on. Whoa, people won't be doing that. You know, and it, when you look at that and that evolution that took place, it's like, stop pushing back against what's going to happen anyway. Okay, you can't stop it. So you can be negative about it, you can have a poisonous opinion about it, but everything related to AI, okay, is going to evolve. Now, is it there yet? No. But are we already experiencing on a daily basis how we can use it ourselves? Yeah. Every single company should be doing an audit on every part of their business to work out how AI is going to play a role and save them money and make them more profitable. And you say, I don't understand it, I'm not going to do it. Sorry, then you'll lose. And whether you're a small business or a large business, the same rules apply. Work out where it's going to be beneficial. It's like you and I going in the olden days from, what are those big books we used to, the accountants' books, what were they called?
A ledger.
Ledgers. Going from ledgers to Excel. You know, Excel is just like a million times better. Oh, I'm not sure I trust the computer for storing my spreadsheet. I'm going to stick with these ledgers here and my fountain pen. And it's just like, don't be so ridiculous. And so within my business, I'm looking at everything I can, like with a fine tooth comb, to work out how I can do things better. But AI is going to impact businesses also potentially negatively. So I'll give you an example. Lawyers. So lawyers start after university at the bottom rung of the ladder. They do a lot of work. Okay, they spend many hours doing this stuff. Yeah.
Pulling books.
Okay. To get to the next stage, to finally one day become partner of Clifford Chance or Alan and Overy or whoever it may be. Yeah, that's the goal. That bottom rung of the ladder can be done by AI. So,
yes.
So then how does the
paralegally side of it? Yeah.
So how does the human being then, because that's almost like their apprenticeship. So how can they get past that?
Well, this is what, I mean, I'm a digital guy, right? So I'm looking forward to all of the innovations and stuff that it will bring. But I am slightly concerned about graduates. So a recent study in the UK basically said that there's been a 33% drop in graduate openings in businesses because businesses are seeing it and doing exactly the same thing. They're saying these type of jobs that you would usually hire a graduate for no longer need them. AI can do them. What happens to the graduate? And it's counterintuitive to me because some of the brightest sparks that we have are our graduates that we have on our management training scheme. They're young, they're youthful.
I don't see that at all.
No?
No. Go back again. I watched the internet come in.
Yeah.
There were people that did certain things.
There are companies that are stopping that.
That had to learn skills for the age of the internet. And so go and learn at university the skills that are going to be needed for your future. So everyone at university right now that's studying stuff that's of no benefit needs to be learning about how AI can be their tool for their future. Become a coder, a developer, whatever it may be. Using, let's say you want to be in marketing or you want to be in some industry that isn't necessarily software. Well, marketing's going to be impacted. We saw it a little while ago with Canva, stuff like that. Yeah. So I think that no, every university, and this is the problem, the universities aren't putting the courses together.
Well, school in general, if you shift left all the way through our education system, this is where we've had discussions before on. I think industries that are going to be disrupted the most, education. That's one of the biggest ones, right? Because it hasn't moved in 100, 150 years, right? We all still think we need to learn trigonometry. We all still need to learn how to, quote Shakespeare or do all these things.
Battle of Hastings.
You simply don't need to do these things anymore. I think education needs to go through the step change of going, okay, if we're going to be AI-assisted human beings, we need to train our people how to do that. And therefore they will then, to your point, you will then get the jobs that will come, and completely new jobs in completely different sectors will be created as a result.
So there's a great future. You just have to make sure that you're understanding where that future is and go and learn it.
And you say you're using it today. What do you use it mostly for?
So every aspect of what we do, we're researching everything. So in terms of business development, AI is being used. In terms of database management, being used. Understanding, because we have an insurance business, understanding all of the steps within the insurance process, how we can bring AI in to replace human beings. Not at the end of the day, we don't want to lose the human being. We've got other things for them to do, but we want to be as efficient as we possibly can. And so there are just so many different little things you'd not even thought of, you know. Social media content, for example. Every single person needs to be creating content, but they're not. They're just not. And
well, it scares people. I was listening to your most recent podcast, and the gentleman there that ran the 200 kilometers.
Oh yeah, Sam McCone.
Yeah, he said he has to create content, so he's in line with you. He said hates it, hated doing it, but forced himself to do it anyway. Do more people need to do that?
He forced himself to do it, and the outcome was it was the best thing they ever did.
Yeah.
So when we say do more people need to do it, it's like if you're a small business, you're a startup, you're an SME, you need to get attention. How are you getting attention? Oh, we don't like to make content. Okay, how are you getting attention? If you walk around this bank, you walk around Dubai Airport, you walk around the metro, you go anywhere, we all bump into each other now because we're all staring at our phones. Okay, so that's where our eyes are. They're not at billboards, they're at their phones. So if people are staring at their phones and you're not where they're staring, how will you get their attention? And so that's why it's critical for every SME to understand and deploy a strategy to use digital media to help them develop their business and develop the personal stories behind the business, which will make them likable and interesting and valuable.
I think from SMEs that we've spoken to, I think people get a bit confused about, is the content about me? Is it about the business? Is it about the product? Do I have to be professional, unprofessional? And I think what we try to advise our clients is it's about authenticity. So if you're authentic about what you're doing, people will find interest in that. If you love what you're doing and you're just posting that on a regular basis, at some point it will bite, right? Because one thing that doesn't take traction is inauthentic, trying to shove something down somebody's throat type content, or content that's not particularly relevant to your area.
Also, people keep forgetting that it's almost like they're trying to create content for the whole world. And they're forgetting that the whole world's not interested. There is a tiny subsection of the world that are really interested in what they do. That's who they're trying to find. For example, if you produce the same content for myself and my daughter, okay, she couldn't give a crap about genuinely about a lot of that stuff, but I might be interested in it. Well, who are you trying to get, her or me? So focus on your authenticity towards me, okay? So understand who your ideal client is, understand what your ideal market is, and create content to serve that. And so you see a lot of real estate brokers creating content. And a lot of that content is not very useful. But there are a few content creators out there that are really teaching people. And a lot of them don't even use their face. They use a screen, they draw pictures, they go through different things, and they show the analysis. Yeah. And that's really valuable for some people. Now, I also have a friend called Summer Newman who's got 1.7 million followers on TikTok. And all she does is videos where she walks into a house, she's filmed just walking around the house with some background music, no talking, okay, showing off the house basically. And there's a huge population of people out there that are aspiring to have a more beautiful home, and they're really attracted to her. It's
universal, right?
Yeah. So not for me. I look at that and I'm like, nah. I listen to the other guy and he's giving me numbers and data and information. I'm like, that's really interesting actually. That would help me make a better decision. Whereas my daughter will look at Summer and go, oh, wow, that's great. So who are you trying to attract? Who is your audience and who are you trying to get as your client? When you know that, then you can make content to suit.
So out of your guests on the podcast, who's done this the best? Who are you most impressed with when it came to content creation?
Well, 400 guests in content. But I've got.
Yeah, if you could go one by one through them.
Yeah. Well, I've had people on the show that have got millions and millions of followers, and I've got people on the show that make great authentic content. I mean, Tony Robbins was on the show a few years ago, and he's he just makes really sincere, real content because of what he leans into. I think there's people out there that teach it well, that demonstrate with their behaviour. So Gary Vee was good like that.
I like Gary Vee.
And you know, he's a straight talking type of person, which I resonate with. You know, the people in the beauty industry that have got 6 or 7 million followers, they understand what they're doing. Yeah. Okay.
And they know who they're doing it for.
And they know who they're doing it for. I mean, you and I, we're going to watch makeup tutorials. No, we're not. Okay. But they do makeup tutorials to their audience, and it works very well. So, and I also think that we always keep thinking about million. You know, there's 3 things in life people want from you. Okay. If they can get them from you, there's 3 things they want. Okay. So they want to get rich quick. Okay, that's one. Number 1, they want to lose weight fast. Okay, and number 3, okay, is they want significance. They want 1 million followers. Okay, so can you get me rich quick? Okay, if you can do that, I'm in. Okay, if you can help me, and so this is how the whole crypto space and the NFT space became a thing, because everyone thought it was the shortcut to getting rich. Then after that, then you've got the whole Manjaro and Ozempic world that was created by these pharmaceutical companies, which give people a shortcut to losing weight. And so then they've become, you know, billion-dollar businesses if they weren't already, because of these products. Yeah. And then you've got this whole significance thing. You know, can I get 1 million followers? Where can I get them from? And if someone can show me, and that's why they respond to these ads of like, you know, $60 for 50,000 followers or whatever it may be, and people have got a lot of fake likes. Now you can or fake followers. You can now go online and check which handle has.
Well, AI has stripped that out.
So we can get rid of that nonsense. And so then I look at the people that don't maybe have. I mean, you look at mine. On Instagram, I've got some 50-odd thousand. TikTok's 50,000. LinkedIn's 30-something thousand. YouTube is 300,000. And then my podcast is different, but. When you look at those different numbers, I'm not Mr. Beast or anything like that, but I have an audience of people that know, like, and trust me, and they resonate with what I say, and they follow me because they get value from my content. I am no expert, but what I do know is that those people trust me because I'm not trying to sell them anything. And Gary Vaynerchuk, if we're talking SMEs, Gary Vaynerchuk talks about it in his book, Jab, 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 Right Hook, where he says you've got to give value. What you see a lot of people doing is trying to sell through social media. Yeah. So it's like, let me tell you something, would you like to buy my product? And it doesn't work like that. Yeah. But you need to demonstrate you're valuable. And you need to do that multiple times before you then say to those people, look, this is what I do, this is how I do it, it might be of value to you. So I see content creation as a great way of generating interest and warmth in your world, okay, without actually going for the cold call or the opportunity there.
So I mean, you've had the benefit of being successful in multiple different industries before you started the podcast. What is the aim of the podcast today? Are you targeting things? Are you doing it because you love it? Are you interested in just speaking to the guests?
That's a really good question. So the podcast has changed over the years. So it started off in the whole world of personal development. I was in that world. I was kind of heavily connected with these types of people. And I don't know, it was episode 50 or 60 early on, we got Tony Robbins to come on the show. And that was a big deal for me because I'd learned a lot from him over the years. But after a couple of years, I mean, maybe year 3, it was like, I'm getting a bit bored with the same old story. So if I'm getting bored with the same old story, then maybe my audience is too. And I shifted. And I interviewed a guy who was on death row for 12 years for a crime he didn't commit. And I sat there as he told this most incredible story with my jaw wide open and then at the end of it in tears. And I'm like, wow, that's a real man that's gone through a real story, miscarriage of justice. How fascinating. I want to talk to more people like that. And so I started to lean into these real stories of people that had overcome something unimaginable, but they found faith and they found hope on the other side of it. And that for me was just truly inspiring for those people. And then something happened one day where there was 2 conversations I had with 2 different people and that I'd known for a long time, and they said, I don't watch your podcast anymore. And I was like, why? They went, it's too heavy.
Oh, wow.
And these 2 people, completely independently of each other, said it to me. And it really made me go, oh, I'm getting it wrong. And I wish I hadn't.
Heavy's good. I think the world needs a bit more.
It was heavy negative for them, and it was like, I don't want to. So, two people. I mean, for goodness sake, it's stupid of me to respond the way I did, but I took that really, really honestly and seriously. I was like, okay, I've got to change it again. So I changed it, and I moved into teaching people about the world of crypto and blockchain and stuff like that. And that was very interesting. But there aren't a lot of people in the world of crypto that know how to talk about it in a way that the general public will understand. Once I'd gone through those people, Michael Saylor, Robert Breedlove, Raoul Paul, Da Vinci Jeremy, these types of people that could explain it, the guys at crypto.com, it started getting into stuff that was more technical, which I didn't want people to, because in a podcast, you don't want people to switch off.
And do you find yourself like siloing down? I think it's a criticism of Steve Bartlett now, right? That a lot of his stuff is like gut health. He seems to be going down that path. And I hope it's not because he's also selling health products as well on the other side. But do you find yourself sort of veering in these directions and having to consciously go, okay, we perhaps have done too many on that subject, so we go back into another one?
Well, what we did about 4 months ago is we decided to change the whole look of the podcast, and we renamed it Made in Dubai. It was called Unscripted with Spencer Lodge. And we called it Made in Dubai because we weren't telling enough stories about people that had made it in some way here. And I don't mean financially necessarily. I wanted to tell the stories of people that had made something of their lives in some way. The first female fighter pilot here, the astronaut, different people in different ways, and people that had done great work for charity and humanity. And so we changed that because I really wanted to tell the story of Dubai. And I think there's a perception of Dubai and the UAE outside of here that's either positive or negative. It's never ambivalent. And so people are like, oh, I can't wait to go there. It's going to be amazing. Or I've been there. It was great. I'm thinking about moving. Or the people that have never been here, they're like, well, I don't know about that. It's a little bit like this. And it's a little bit like, oh, I don't know about that. The rules they have there. Everyone gets beheaded, don't they? They all lose their hands and all this kind of stuff. And there's like, oh, you can't hold hands in public. Well, if you haven't got any hands, you won't be able to hold them anyway. But it's like this perception. Is that, and for me, I want those people to learn about real people with real stories in Dubai that they maybe can identify within their own story in their own world and be more empathetic towards their position on Dubai without going to see it. Make them more curious about coming here.
So, you said you interviewed over 400 people on the podcast. Who's left? Who would be a real target for you to bring onto the podcast? Whose story do you want to hear next?
In terms of stories, obviously I'd like to have Sheikh Mohammed to come and join us on the show. That would be a dream. If not Fazza, I'd love to have Sheikh Hamdan to come and join us. I think that would be a fantastic experience alone, let alone anything else. We'd love to have Mohammed Alabar come and join us and tell us his story, because I think, again, the world needs to know it. And I think in a very kind of, we're quite raw. We don't sit down and, make it official. It's a great example of this was Fahad Azizi owns Azizi, the property developer's CEO. And we filmed an episode that was kind of like suit and tie and very corporate. And I didn't like it at all. And so we did another episode where we went around the developments in the back of his car and we were talking about them and stuff. And that was better. And then I said, do you know what I'd love to do? You and I in a pair of shorts and flip-flops on a park bench with a flask of coffee and 2 sandwiches, petrol station sandwiches. Just 2 blokes just talking, and nobody knows that you're who you are, and that's it. And he went, that's actually a really good idea. We could do that. The day before we because we'd planned it and organised it, the day before he called me, he said, I've got a better idea. He said, have you ever been skydiving?
Are you kidding me?
And I'm like, yeah, I have. He said, I haven't. He said, and my wife won't let me go, but if I tell her I'm on a podcast, she won't know until I get home. And so we went to Skydive Dubai and we skydived. And we filmed the podcast before and after the skydive.
Oh, wow.
And did the skydive in the middle. And it was so great that I've got this guy because people have perceptions of billionaires. And I know a few of them, and billionaires are no different to any of us.
People, no?
They're just people. They do the same things. My mum said to me once when I was very young, she goes, Spencer, don't forget, even the Queen goes to the toilet every morning. I was like, all right, mum. So yeah, people like that. But then anyone that has a story where they've overcome something, I'm fascinated by. I want to learn. I want to learn from people. And, we have the whole world of AI becoming this thing at the moment. So we have these AI experts on. but yet they're almost in the kind of like crypto headspace where they're understanding their world, but they're not understanding how to communicate to everyday people.
They're in the detail.
Yeah, and because of that, they create a challenge. And so, and again, I'm highly aware that I want people to come on the show and understand what's going on and to engage with the guest and feel like they're enjoying the conversation rather than sitting there going, yeah, I don't really understand that. You know, I've had some great educational episodes. So Rachel Conlon, the chief marketing officer of Binance, was on the show. She was just brilliant. She gave us like a 101 in marketing. I had Sahar Khan from Beirut. She's the CMO. She taught us how they landed Hemsworth, the movie star, and how they put themselves on the map. And she was just fantastic. These are more recent time ones. But when people can come away saying, I made some notes and I've learned something here, this was really valuable, that's when I know that we're doing a good job. I asked somebody once that's done more episodes than me. He's got something called the School of Greatness. And I asked him, I said, how many episodes did you do before you knew what you were doing? And he said 500. And I said, it's really interesting you say that, because even though I've been doing it a long time and it's a really well-known podcast here, I still wonder sometimes if I know what I'm doing. I still have those doubts.
Do you get nervous?
No, I never get nervous because I'm really looking forward to having the conversation, because I'm not doing what I'm doing. I'm doing what you're doing, yeah? I'm just asking people questions, but I'm naturally really curious about why people think the way they think. And so because I'm naturally curious, I'm wrapped up in learning for myself. Often these podcast episodes aren't for the audience. Often they're for me.
It's just for you. Yeah.
And
the private collection.
Yeah, and everyone's benefiting from it, but it's actually me on a learning journey. You know, and I own businesses, and I want to learn from people that are more successful than me. So absolutely, I'll have that lesson.
So you're ingesting all this learning, right? You're speaking to all these amazing people and listening to their stories, their growth stories, or overcoming challenges and everything. Is there a grand vision of putting that into something? So, or is it the podcast itself that's the product at the end?
Obviously we look at the top 10 podcasts in the world, and we compare ourselves to those, and we look at what they're doing, and how. My podcast is a business. It started as a hobby. It makes money. It's its own financial entity, and for that to keep growing and becoming more and more, if I can get in 5 years' time to retirement at 60, and my full-time job is only doing the podcast. And that's making me a great living, and I become, the Letterman of Dubai, or whoever it may be. a bit arrogant to think that, but I become
Minister would be good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it'd be good. Yeah, that'd be great, because I'm really, really interested in people.
I think it'd be amazing if you could get in some form to educate, to give some of these lessons back in like a university or something. Have you had conversations on that level?
I had American University of Sharjah. I've had conversations with, and I've done some work with them. I think a lot of the time, organizing a podcast, there's lots of moving parts. It's not just about me and you. We're here in this studio with all of these other people, and all of this has to be put together. You start involving a university, you just add another layer. Okay, and so it becomes more challenging, and I think you've got to be at a place where the truth is everybody can learn. One of the greatest things that came from the podcast was the documentary that we made about human trafficking.
Okay,
so it gave me the chance to spend time with people that really deeply moved me, and then we were given the opportunity to make a documentary, which we made in Nepal and Bangladesh and in the UK and Holland and stuff. And that was, if I got nothing else from the podcast apart from the chance to do stuff like that, I'd die a happy man.
So that period where you were working nearly every single day, you're loving what you're doing. What things did you learn that we could gift to our SME communities that are listening? What 3 things are really important for them to understand when they're starting their journey?
Number 1, sales is everything. If you've got money coming through the door, the bank manager won't give you grief. If you've got money coming through the door, you can pay the bills. You can survive. You may not be perfect in every area, but as long as there's money coming through the door. Number 2, credit. Okay? Credit is very dangerous as a startup. Don't give people 30, 60, 90-day payment terms. Have payment on completion of work. Okay, that's a really important thing for an SME to know. Okay, and some get that and some don't. And some companies have gone bust on the back of that problem alone. Okay, so also The third thing I'll say is understand there are 3 really important relationships in your business. Okay. Number 1, have a really good lawyer. Okay. Like a really good lawyer. Like someone that doesn't allow you to sign anything without you knowing exactly what you're signing. Number 2, get the best accountant money can buy. Okay. You're not good with money. Don't think you're good with money just because you know how to save. All right. Get a really good business accountant. Okay. They're worth their weight in gold. And I think thirdly, when you're in that early phase of a business, you need relationships with like a bank, with people that you connect with, that can understand your business and work with you. And I think that a lot of people don't put the effort into building a relationship with a bank. Go have lunches and dinners with the people in the bank so that you can build the relationship. And I'm not saying that because I'm sat here on your show, but it's really important because so often in business do we make mistakes, and we need someone that can be forgiving for us around those mistakes.
Absolutely amazing advice. Thank you so much. I think we've run out of time. I could talk to you all day. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for having me on.